Celtic Football Club have just won 5-1. 5-1 in a UEFA Champions League game. Nope, it's not a qualifier. Nope, it's not against the 12th ranked team in the Belarusian Premier Division. We have won 5-1 in the proper former group stage, now league phase of the competition. And say what you like, but I am bloody chuffed. Let's talk about that. Hello, like and subscribe, all of that jazz. Where does one even begin tonight? We're here to review Celtic's opening Champions League fixture. For the first time in the club's history, Celtic have won their opening game of a Champions League campaign, and haven't just won the game, they have won the game in fashion. In historic, brutal, dominating fashion. Celtic 5, Slovan Bratislava 1 is the final score this evening. Here's a look at the league table, by the way, as it stands. Lovely. Let's stop the count there, shall we? Celtic second after match day 1. Wow. I'm so bloody proud. You know, I'm just so bloody happy. I won't let anybody that doesn't support Celtic take that away from us as fans tonight. Take that away from Celtic tonight. We worked our absolute arses off. And we got everything that we deserved. Champions of Slovakia. Yeah, they might not be the greatest team in the world. But we won 5-1. And guess what? There's only one Scottish team in the Champions League, so nobody really has a say anyway. People will try and take that away from Celtic tonight. There is no doubt about it, you know. You'll see that line on Twitter. It's only Slovan Bratislava. Who cares? You know, and it doesn't work like that. You know, you can't go on for years about how poor Celtic's Champions League record is. You can't hit out with, Celtic can't win in the Champions League, and then suddenly go, oh, it doesn't count. You know, it doesn't work like that. It can't work like that. Celtic have won tonight against a side who earned their way into the competition, a side who are the champions of their respective nation. And yes, it's a game that Celtic should have been winning tonight. If we didn't win, it would have been flat out embarrassing. I said that in yesterday's match preview. But to do it in the fashion that we've had, to inspire hope amongst Celtic fans in the fashion that they have, and to start off a campaign where there is so much positive energy amongst the Celtic supporters, to back that positive energy up, the manner that we've done that in tonight deserves to be praised, deserves to be credited. Brendan Rodgers went into this game yesterday saying it is the most confident he's felt as Celtic manager going into a Champions League campaign, and we are seeing why. We are seeing a Celtic team that are so well drilled. This is a Celtic team that in years gone by, we wouldn't have won that game 5-1 tonight. You know, this is the modern age. I have never watched the Celtic go into the first game of the Champions League thinking we can do that to a team. People might bring up Ange Postecoglou's side of 2022 and how we went in thinking we could beat Real Madrid. Of course we did, but it was also the same group stage in which we dropped points against a poor Shakhtar Donetsk. This is a new Celtic team. And yeah, who knows what it'll look like come match day 8. We might finish in the bottom few teams. We might lose every game from here on out. But I think that we've got more than enough evidence on that performance tonight, to sit down and be confident, to be optimistic, and to say that things have changed at the club. Because we wouldn't have done this last season. We wouldn't have done it the season before. We wouldn't have done it 5-6 years ago. This is a new Celtic side. And as I said, I'm so bloody proud of them and their performance this evening. 5-1. Am I playing Football Manager? Rub my eyes. I'm sitting on the BBC website right now, looking at the live article about Celtic's result. There are 7,500 people on this article viewing it as we speak. It's fucking 11:15 at night as I record this. The game finished an hour ago. I don't think anybody can believe it. There's still 7,500 people sitting in this article, rubbing their eyes, making sure that is actually a 5 beside Celtic's badge. Unbelievable. I mean, where do we start? There is no room for negatives today. If you're here to nitpick about tonight, all I can say is get a grip. If you're going to moan about anything tonight, have a good look at yourselves. If you want to moan about anything, at least save it a couple of days. Let Celtic fans be euphoric. Be fucking happy for once, you know? And there will be. I know there will be. There'll be a couple of people saying that Leo Hattati was poor again today. He shouldn't have a Celtic top on. To a man, every player deserves their credit tonight. Even the ones who did perform slightly off the boil. For example, Kyogo, despite getting his goal, I didn't think he was great tonight. If anything, he should have fucking walked off the park with a hat-trick. But I'm not going to sit here and moan about him, because I've just watched Celtic win 5-1 in the Champions League. I don't know if I'll ever see that again in my lifetime. Genuinely. I'm drinking this in. I'm enjoying it while I can, because I don't know if I'll ever see anything like it again. So if you're here to nitpick and you're here to moan, please, I ask if you save it a couple of days. You know, I don't want to hear it just now, to be honest. I can't be bothered with the negativity. Thanks. To a man, every player deserves their praise tonight, because they all contributed at the end of the day to the performance that's seen a 5-1 win. Yeah, people as individuals might have had, you know, a slightly worse game than other players in the park. People might not have performed to their optimum ability tonight, but at the end of the day, the 11 players in the park plus the subs that came to the pitch, all of them had a part to play in Celtic's performance. You don't win 5-1 with players playing badly. You know, you win 5-1 because everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet. And I'm not going to just happy clap and say everything's okay when we have results like this, because, you know, there is room for criticism. There is room for analysis. That means you need to break down aspects of performances. But everybody contributed tonight, and I think that they all deserve their praise for that. Some more than others. But as I said, I'm not going to get bogged down in all of that. Absolutely not. Brendan Rodgers is buzzing. I'm buzzing. We all should be buzzing. Talking about Brendan Rodgers, before we get into the performance of analysing the performance itself tonight, Brendan Rodgers, this was some of his comments, because I can't help but bring them up and I can't help but agree. Played well in the first half, got an early goal that we wanted, had more opportunities, could have been more clinical. We were taking one touch too many. I agree. We'll come on to that. And in his words, we could have had more than 5. This is the quote that I love from Brendan Rodgers in his post-match presser. Mentality, hunger, greedy for more goals, greedy for the ball, everyone working right until the very end, and we could have had more than 5. We should have had more than 5. The greed of the players, the mentality of the players, hunting down every second ball, going in for every 50-50, challenging for the ball, ultimately not taking the foot off the gas, especially in the second half. As I said, I think if you read Rodgers' comments, you'll see there was a noticeable difference between both halves for me. I think we were a lot better in the second half. I think the first half, towards the end, things went a wee bit flat. But the second half, it was like Rodgers, I mean, who knows? Maybe he went through them at half-time. Maybe he was brutal with them at half-time. But, you know, going into the half, I felt we needed a bit more energy. We needed energised. And if Rodgers' comments at full-time have to prove anything here, I think that he maybe done that for them at half-time. But the greed and the hunger and the passion amongst the team to get those goals, to get 4 goals in the second half of football in the Champions League, it's crazy. It's huge. And as I said, you can't nitpick. You can't say individuals weren't contributing to it. Every single man was, even if it was the smallest thing like chasing a ball down. You don't need to be scoring goals every week to be considered a top player. As long as you're contributing to the club, as long as you're contributing to the performance in the park every week, which every player did tonight, that's where you get your credit from me. So let's run it back then, shall we? Let's talk about the first half to start us off, as we usually would in these match reactions. Yeah, we started the game really well. My biggest negative about that first half performance was, as the manager touched on in his comments, was the wastefulness. A couple of big opportunities gone missing. I flew out my seat at a point to shout at Kyogo. I think it was the second big chance that he had, and he just rushed it. He had the shot, and I think it went over the... Was it saved or over the bar? Can't remember exactly what happened, but I popped off my seat. I was fuming with him. And Kyogo was rushing what he was trying to do. Hatate was rushing what he was trying to do. There was parts of that first half where we looked a little bit tentative. But, you know, we made up for it in the fact that we were controlling the game. Slovan Bratislava, I never had a look in. We were forcing them into mistakes, and that's what I mean. Even if it's off the ball, if players are making up for the odd mistake, they're, you know, Kyogo missing a chance or Hatate misplacing a pass, if that happens, they're doing something off the ball to make up for it seconds later. We were really piling down on Slovan Bratislava. We were controlling them. We were, every time that they had a set piece, if they had corners in the first half, 3 or 4 corners in that first half, they couldn't get anything with them because we were on top of them. You know, Alistair Johnson, who's about half the height of the player he's marking, he's rising to the ball, perfect timing, more hunger to get to it. First half, we were just in total control, and we get our first goal through Liam Scales. Let's talk about Scalesy, because, you know, if we're quick to jump to criticising Liam Scales, we've also got to be quick to praise Liam Scales. It's only fair. Liam Scales tonight was magnificent, brilliant, and he is doing everything to keep a hold of that starting jersey. And that's another reason why, and we never spoke about this enough when we were linked with Austin Trusty. That's an important factor about bringing Trusty to the club. You know, Scales, towards the end of last season, was poor. He was. and I'm not going to turn this video into a slating Liam Scales video, I'm not, but he was poor. We all seen it, we all knew we had to be another centre-half. But an aspect of that, I really do believe, comes down to the fact there was no competition for that jersey. Scales knew he was going to be in the team every week. Getting a player like Trusty in, who as fans we probably expected to take the starting spot at Celtic, has lit a fire under Scales' arse. Because this season, so far, he has rarely put a foot wrong. He has been really fucking good. And he deserves his credit for that. Tonight, in the Champions League, in the biggest stage of them all, he has performed magnificently. And getting a goal is just well deserved. You know, I'm chuffed for him to get that goal. I really, really am. He was a rock tonight at the back. He was effective at set pieces, scoring a goal from it. He deserves his credit for his performance tonight. I thought, you know, despite... We'll come on to the goal that we conceded. Look at the state of my hair, because I've had a hat on for ages. Sorry. We'll come on to the second half. But defensively, I just thought we were really, really good. Vladimir Weiss, who pretends to be a footballer, was in the pocket of Alistair Johnston. Greg Taylor, I thought, had a really good game in the left-hand side. I thought the back four were just really, really good. Vickers was solid as well. I think there was just a lapse of concentration when it came to the goal that we conceded. But the back four for me were maybe even the highlight of the first half. Yeah, we were just really, really good. Scales deserves all the credit in the world. Vladimir Weiss. He was terrible at Rangers and he's terrible now. You know, I can't believe there was Rangers fans on Twitter saying he's going to do something tonight. He's rotten. He always has been. He was pish. You know, but first half, we got our goal. We never looked as though we were going to let Bratislava back into the game. As I said, I think it was just towards the end of the half, the intensity levels dropped a little bit, but boy, did we pick them up in the second half. It was just brilliant, the second half. I mean, I don't want to drag this video on too long at the end of the day because it's coming out late. I can't give the full breakdown to each player that I'd want to give. You know, I wish that I could sit here and give a full-on analysis for every single player. Kyogo sets the tone very early. We needed that. We really did. And I said that to Kieran at half-time. A very early goal in the second half would be critical. And Kyogo does it, doesn't he? Gets on the end of Nicholas. Kuhn does brilliantly. Kuhn deserves a real solid amount of credit for that goal tonight. And Kyogo, thankfully, puts it in the net just as I was maybe, you know, I was thinking in my head I'd like to see Ida on at the point. But he finished it, and that's what matters. Engels then scores the penalty, puts us 3-0 up. Then we concede the goal, which was frustrating. It was. You know, conceding goals like that, it reminds you of Celtic at the worst. You know, it's a stupid goal to concede. You know, that's typical of us in Europe. I'd rather do it when we're 3-0 up than, you know, 0-0 or 1-0 up and letting them back in the game. But what mattered was the response, you know, because even when he scored that, I turned to Kieran, you know, Kieran said to me, "Oh no, don't tell me." And I was like, I've seen enough of Bratislava tonight, and I mean this with all due respect, they were really poor. I've seen enough in the game to really believe that we weren't in trouble when they made it 3-1. But what's still important is responding and replying, because Celtic in the Champions League have been dodgy with stuff like that. They've not responded to tricky situations well. But I mean, we couldn't have responded any better tonight. Dyson Maeda's finish, oh, gorgeous, to make it 4-1. And then Adam Ida just puts all the icing on the cake with 5 to go and scores that 5th goal. 5-1. 5 goals scored in the Champions League. I'm a dreaming, man. I'm buzzing. I'm on cloud 9. I can't even go through the game analytically because I'm just fucking buzzing. But yeah, everybody, as I said, to a man that second half, we were just brilliant. The substitutions were effective as well. I thought that they came on and had good cameos. Listen, you're not going to get too much out of Paulo Bernardo, who's playing 15-20 minutes, or Ida, who's playing 15-20 minutes, but hey, you know, Forrest came on, got an assist. Ida comes on, gets a goal, and everybody else who came on, Trusty and Roust and Bernardo, the other 3 subs, they went bad, you know. So this is a squad that's just so well drilled at the minute, and it's a joy to watch. And I'm just full of confidence. That second half performance, you can do that. If you do that at Parkhead in every match day, we've got a really good chance, man. And I think that's the main thing about tonight's performance, is how it inspires you moving forward, you know. Not to get all soppy and kind of, you know, I don't want to get too carried away with things, but it does inspire you. It does bring a confidence to watching Celtic in Europe that's maybe not been there in a while. And listen, I went into that game against Feyenoord last year, the opening game, and I thought we have a good chance. And I went into that Real Madrid game thinking, wow, we're actually, good enough to take them on. And I've went into many group stages when Rodgers was here the first time as well. Those 2 group stages, I've went in full of confidence. But then we've been brought right down to earth on the opening day. After Feyenoord last year, I watched and went, we have no hope. To come out of this game today where we are is huge. And you can't underestimate the power of that, because it's something we've genuinely never felt. We've never won an opening game. So where we go from here can hopefully only be positive. Of course, it's a tough second game against Dortmund, but get them playing like they were there, then who knows? Anyway, we'll probably get into things a bit more analytically and a bit deeper tomorrow on the channel. So we'll do our kind of post-Euphoria breakdown, and then of course we have the Celtic the Thunder tomorrow night as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. It is much appreciated. Like and subscribe. Let me know all your thoughts. The wire's falling apart. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Sorry it's been a bit hectic, but hey, who cares? Next time.